So I'm from North Carolina, but recently I went to Virginia to pick up some different animals, and I thought I would check the Craigslist while I was there to see if there was anything interesting that we could get off the site from random people in Virginia. And there were a few. I think I ended up getting 5 or 6 animals, which you can see all that in a vlog. It was a pretty fun one. How do I open the gas tank? Okay, so here's the bearded dragon that I just picked up. And one of the animals that I got was this little bearded dragon. Someone put a posting up with 4 beardies. They wanted them to all go to separate homes. So I just got one. Someone put an ad up, and I met them in a Walmart parking lot. So I picked them up. I didn't get a good look at them there because I don't feel like talking to people. They also recognized me, and it was kind of awkward, just like any others. Like nothing they did made it more awkward. I want it to be quick. So basically I didn't really look at the animal that much, and I brought it back to my Airbnb, and then I finally got a better look at him. Now in that vlog I hinted at there being a handful of issues that I was really concerned about, and that's what this update is for. I tried to keep the room nice and warm there. I didn't bring any heating, even though I should have just brought a bulb or a heat mat. But right off the bat, he was just very lethargic, and I was pretty concerned as to what he had gone through. I really didn't know much about his diet or setup or anything. The person said they actually had 4 beardies, and they were all from the same clutch. I was actually going to go back for the other 3, but they found another home for that. So I'm hoping that those people realize how many issues these beardies had. So what exactly are these issues, and what have we done to fix them? It's actually not the worst things in the world. We've had way bigger problems that we've had to deal with and get animals to recover from. And so these were basically issues that started out minor, but could have gotten a lot more serious, and they were most certainly on their way there. I think we kind of swooped in just in time before more serious stuff started happening. The first was that he was just extremely lethargic. I have no idea why. His weight was okay, he was a bit underweight, he was kind of wrinkly. My first thought with seeing this is that maybe he has parasites or something, which is pretty, it's not super common in bearded dragons. You'll see it more often in others, because they're basically all captive bred now, when parasites usually come from an animal that's imported or taken from the wild, like my Savannah monitor, for example. So I was like, maybe he has parasites, I don't know. I was trying to be careful and make sure he doesn't come in contact with too many other things. And then the second thing, which I didn't actually realize at first, was the amount of stuck shed he has. You can see a small patch right there, which I'll get to, but literally the entire body was just stuck shed. I didn't notice because it was just a full layer. Actually multiple layers. I think it was between, on different parts of his body, there were between 2 and 5 layers of stuck shed. It was a lot. Now, based on how he looks right now, I would not think that he's had so much stuck shed. And I was very surprised when it started to peel. The problem was it was extremely hard to peel. We've done lots of bearded dragon shed problems before when they come in, but this took more effort than anything else. We've been working on this same shed on him since we got him multiple times a week. Each time we get a little more off, and he's not super comfortable with people. He's doing super well right now. He isn't a fan of being handled or touched too much. So if he was in my hands right now, he would be freaking out more. He doesn't like being touched on the belly or anything. So it made it extremely difficult. We did very long and very thorough warm baths every single time, and it was definitely helping. Now the worst part was the tail. I was pretty sure he was gonna have to get his tail amputated because it was awful. I have pictures, but it is pretty hard to tell just how bad it is. You can see one part where the tip is completely black. It looks like it was burnt or something, which it wasn't. It was just necrotic or something, basically just dead on the end. But I was really concerned that the entire tail the whole way through was dead. Thankfully, as we were peeling, again, it took weeks to get it to even start because I think there was a fresh shed underneath that was trying to come off, but it was hopeless. That was not going to come off on its own. So at a certain point, we were able to kind of just force all those layers off. And then about a week later, did another bath, and it was loosened up super well, and it slid off pretty easily. I got some pictures of this in between, and then kind of a gross part happened. I was peeling all the way down, and a full chunk of the tail, half a centimeter, just came off. It was just gone. It was in my hand, but gone from his tail, just popped right off, no problem. And then it started to bleed a little bit, and I was like, uh-oh, this is not good. But then while I was cleaning the blood up 2 minutes later, I was like, wait, this is good. The tail's not dead. Because a dead things don't bleed usually. Basically, the tip that you see now had some blood just right on the end. Who knew you could be so excited about blood? But that meant that there was a pretty good sign that his tail would be saved, that we wouldn't have to chop it off and he'd look like some weird frog, lizard, reptile thing with no tail. So we ended up loosely wrapping the entire tail after cleaning it, adding some alcohol, making sure it's all disinfected. And that healed up within about a week. So there are some different parts. It's kind of lumpy. It looks like you can see where parts of his tail are constricted. Like if the tail goes like this, it kind of goes smaller and then larger and then smaller. Basically, like if you put like a rubber band around it, that's kind of what it looks like. So there are some permanent spots like that. It's not something that I'm sure would go away or not, but thankfully those are higher up on the tail, but the blood was beneath that. Meaning that there is still circulation going past it. So that's a good sign. You can touch it as much as you want. He can feel it, but he's clearly not bothered, so I don't have any concerns about that. There's this one patch right here that is just not ready to come off. I managed to really get one scale off and kind of force it, and it looks like it just wasn't ready. So I'm just leaving this patch. It's been there like a week, but it's still not budging. So I'm not concerned about it. I think it'll come off just fine. It's just taking longer than the rest, and you can definitely see. But just the differences, while like peeling on his back, it was such a tedious process, and you could see the differences. It was so crazy how different it was. And he's a very dark dragon in general. They can slightly change color, like based on how hot or cold it is in the enclosure. And then of course like their neck can change color, but even the back changes a little, but he's always a very dark color overall, even with the proper heating. The shed went all up and down all of his legs and toes, which was also pretty tedious. And it looks surprisingly good. Like one? Is that seriously the only one? I think there's only one claw missing, even though there was a shed everywhere. So they are very hardy, and I'm very impressed how much of this stayed, which is a great thing. I know a lot of nails grow back, which I actually didn't know until my Savannah monitor's nails started growing back, so that's really cool. But all the toes are there, which is a great thing to see. Now, one of the odd things, speaking of toes, is his left foot seems to be bothering him somehow. Like, right, you can touch it, you can do whatever you want to it, he doesn't care. But when he runs or walks, he'll stop and it'll kind of be upside down, as if he's like trying to relieve pressure or not put pressure on that leg, which is interesting. I haven't seen a lizard do that before, because there's no metabolic bone disease, surprisingly. Everything moves really well, and it's just that one foot that's always kind of to the side. So feel free to leave tips on that if you have an idea of what it is. Otherwise, we're going to keep watching it, see if it improves, because it's nothing detrimental, nothing that's bothering him like crazy. But he had like he was like wearing a jacket just of his own shed. There were just layers on his arms. They were like sleeves just pulling off. It was very satisfying, I must say, but it still wasn't ideal. I wish we didn't have to do that. So there was the tail that I thought would have to come off, the feet that I thought would just have all sorts of problems with nails coming off and stuff, but those are doing well. My other base concern was how lethargic he was and how he was eating, but not super enthusiastically. He was just kind of down and drowsy and a bit loopy overall. But just over time, as he's gotten to soak up some artificial sun and natural sun, he's been outside a few times, but he's very fast, so you gotta be careful. Oh, jeez. What was that? And then after getting just loads of food in him, he eats all sorts of things, his plants, his insects, no problem. His energy is just the best in the room now, which is super awesome to see, because that could have been an underlying issue, but now there's no concern about that. Something kind of cool is that he has these little orange spots behind his ears, or like his head, skull, I guess. I just love orange on reptiles, and it's just a cute little highlight that he has. But yeah, at first he was not very comfortable with people. He was crazy and scared, but now he's doing way better. He chilled on my desk a few hours the other day, and it was really fun. He just sat there running around licking stuff, and he's just so alert. It's great to see, and that means that he's going to be a super great pet, I think. I mean, there's always changes. We could see what else comes up. But so far, so good, with a lot more improvement than I expected. So once he's listed on our site at emeraldscales.com, which he's not yet, we still got time to wait, but once he is there, he will probably be marked as a rescue. When we list animals, they're either marked as like perfect, as if it's just straight from a breeder, or marked as a rescue. These are kind of two extremes, but basically anything that's not perfect automatically goes in the rescue folder, just because we don't want to mislead anyone and think that they're getting some perfect animal. Even though rescue is too serious of a term, we need something in between, like lightly used. I don't know what it should be. You can leave suggestions for that, but simply because of that tail on the end, the missing claw, he's got imperfections. I can just say imperfect at the top, something like that. It's definitely not what I expected, because he looked perfect from images. He looked great in person in the box at Walmart. And then I really did have those concerns. So this was kind of boring because there's nothing terribly wrong with him, which is great. At first I underreacted, and then I kind of overreacted because I thought it was really bad. And now things have just been consistently on the up and up. We're keeping track of his weight. It looks like he's growing well. He's gaining muscle mass and gaining a bit of weight. And he should be growing, so I don't believe he'll be stunted or anything. Stunting is a big problem with bearded dragons. We've especially had to deal with a lot, because if you really are not super careful and super tedious with their diet from day one out of the egg, they're going to have a very high chance of being stunted, because they consume so much food. They need so much nutrition to get that jump start when they're out of the egg. So I'm always kind of scared working with little babies, because I'm like, these are the really important weeks that are going to gauge how their entire future life is going to be for the next 15 years or whatever. But I just simply did not want to leave you hanging with this, because I know a lot of people cared and wanted to see him, which is understandable, because I pretended he didn't exist, and I kind of forgot to do any videos on him. So he's not a personal animal. He's one, like I said, that'll be listed on our site. You can keep a lookout. You can follow Emerald Scales at _Emerald Scales on Instagram or Twitter, which is where we post animals before anywhere else on Instagram. So glad to say he's doing well and he's improving. Hope you enjoyed this quick and pretty simple update on our beardie that I got from Virginia. You can check out all the other meet the animals things. I'll make a new playlist below of some other cool ones that I've introduced to the channel. So this is kind of a fun little simple series to do. So I'm Alex, and thanks for watching. Oh, here it comes.